All right. Hello there. Aldreama Harper here. This is another episode that I'm doing of the OrganizedPreneur Podcast. It's a little bit different because this is actually, I'm going to be answering questions that were submitted for a masterclass. And so this is going to be um, that type of episode. And so I'm super excited about it because I get to do this from time to time whenever I am um, not available to do the masterclass. I will go ahead and do this, record and answer your questions live. So I hope this is helpful to you. And I hope that you get all of your questions answered. And of course, if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer those as well. So, official introduction. Welcome to the OrganizedPreneur Podcast, where I help female entrepreneurs to get heard, get organized, and get leads. And so, in this episode, I'm going to be answering questions that were directly submitted by participants and registrants um, for a recent masterclass. And so, what I want you to notice here is that these are not they're not necessarily beginner questions, they're actually clarity questions. Okay, these are questions from people who they're already doing meaningful work, okay, and want to do more by focusing, want more reach, more sustainability. So that's what this episode is all about. This is a very special one. Um, and so I hope you enjoy this. So, what I want you to do is to listen for yourself in this episode because chances are one of these questions is going to answer your question. You may have the same question, right? So let's just kind of get into it because there are actually 5 questions that were submitted to me and that I'm going to answer in this episode. So as I read these questions, I want you to notice the pattern. Okay. Again, none of these questions are asking, how do I start? These questions are asking, how do I sustain? How do I scale? How do I, how do I get visible? Okay. And that's what I'm going to answer today. And just in case you've never heard of me, or maybe this is your first time interacting with me, just to give you a little bit of background, um, I've hosted several podcasts, 3 podcasts. I've launched 3 podcasts. Okay. The first podcast was not um, successful from the standpoint of having a lot of episodes. Okay. So it only has about 13 to 14 episodes, and that includes the trailer. And then the second episode has the second podcast has 400 episodes with my former business partner. Very excited about that. And so now this particular podcast, which is the Organizedpreneur Podcast, I'm on my 180 something. I don't know when this one airs. This will be, I think, 183 episodes. I think that's what this one is going to be. So I've been in the game for a little while. I've been in the podcasting space since 2013. I've been in the organizing space since 2003. And so that is why I'm very passionate about both of those. I'm very passionate about entrepreneurship. I'm passionate about organizing, and I'm very passionate about podcasting. So that's what you're going to get when you listen to any of my episodes, right? Or any content that I create. Okay. So hopefully that helps you to get a little bit of background on me, but I'm going to go ahead and start with the first question. So question number 1 comes from a creator that asks, how can I reach more listeners and grow my subscribers on YouTube and podcast platforms. So I will preface my answer by saying this. I am not a YouTube expert, but I am on YouTube. Okay. So I don't necessarily teach you how to grow or get subscribers or grow your podcast on YouTube. Um, but I am a podcaster. So I am on YouTube and all of the podcasting platforms. Just wanted to make sure that I clarify that. And so this is the get heard part of the framework. Remember, I said it's supposed to be in this order. And sometimes I kind of mix up the order a little bit. But the order is get organized, get heard, and get leads. So this is the get heard part of the framework. Okay. And the mistake that I see most often that entrepreneurs will do is that they treat their podcast like a diary, hoping that people would just subscribe or stumble on it, right? Just kind of stumble on it because it's about me. And then there are some people that treat their podcast like it is the only thing that's going to help them to get heard, and that is not the case. That is not the case. Okay. Uh, it takes time, particularly if you're not doing ads and things like that. So here is the strategy. First, remember that you must stop creating content and start creating assets. Your podcast is an asset. And to grow your podcast on different platforms, you must have an SEO strategy. SEO meaning a search engine optimization strategy. Okay. And so you want to make sure that you use this type of strategy to grow on podcast platforms. Now, what that means is that changes almost monthly, if not daily. So there is podcast SEO, there's AI SEO, there's SEO, in general, there's, all types of terms out there in order to get your podcast more visible. But there are certain things that you do need to do in order to make it search engine optimized. Okay. So you want to use keywords in your titles and so that people can find you on the platforms. Okay. You want to make sure that you do that. And so when you are doing things on, let's just say you are trying to get on YouTube, you're trying to get seen on YouTube. Again, I'm not an expert. However, I can share a few tips. So to get more visible on YouTube, you want to make sure that you have hooks, what's called visual hooks. Remember that YouTube is a search engine. Okay. And yes, you have to use visual discoverable or discovery engine, if you will. You have to use something that is visible. Like you want to make sure that when you go and look on YouTube, you want to make sure that there is what they call a thumbnail, right? Now, I will say this, that it works better when you work with someone perhaps that actually can do that for you if you don't know how to do a thumbnail, okay? Or even if you don't know what a thumbnail is, okay? But YouTube does have to have visual hooks in order to be seen, because if you go to YouTube, you'll make sure you'll see visual hooks by the image, and then there'll be this some type of wording on there. Maybe it's the image of the person with the title in bold on an image so that it will catch your attention. But the thing that I will say is this: I would say pick a platform. I would say start with, if you are looking to get visible and be more visible on YouTube, I would say start with YouTube and make that your primary platform, and then move to the other ones. I would not start with trying to be on all of the platforms in every place, everywhere. Okay. Start with YouTube and then move to those other platforms. And there's a way that you can do that. We don't have time to get into that right now, but um, that is how you do that. Because again, you need visual hooks if you're going to start on YouTube. Okay. And you want to start on that platform and use that platform as your primary platform. Okay. And then move to other platforms as a secondary platform. Okay. So that is how I would start if I was going to start all over again. Right. So now, if you are an audio person, I would not start on YouTube first. Okay, I would start on like Apple or Spotify. I would probably start on Spotify first and then distribute to the other platforms. That's what I would do. Okay, so take like a 60-second. And I know I'm taking long on this, but I really want to answer your question to the best of my ability so that you have a place to start and you understand the that there is a strategy that's attached to this. Don't just go out there and just all willy-nilly and start with no strategy. That is why I only have 13 episodes with a trailer, because I had no strategy. Okay. All right. Then you're going to take the best 60 seconds of that audio. Okay. And then turn it into a YouTube short or a reel or something like that to drive traffic back to the main show. Don't try to grow two separate mountains at the same time unless you have a team. All right. So that hopefully that answers question number 1. All right. Let's move on to question number 2. The question was, how do I establish consistent topics or talking points that will stay engaging, but also still hold to the mission and vision of the organization? I absolutely love this question, right? Because it really highlights the tension between being entertaining and being on a mission, right? And so the answer to that is to create content pillars, or what I call a content umbrella. So if you think about your mission statement, and I would do that before I did anything. And if you need help with any of this, make sure that you click on, there will be a link where you can get on a complimentary discovery call with me where you will walk away with a strategy. Okay. So if that is of interest to you, as I continue to answer these questions, then make sure you get on a call with me. Let's say your mission statement rather is the handle of the umbrella. Okay, everything you talk about must fit under that umbrella. And if you want to talk about your vacation, ask yourself, does this tie back to my mission? Does this tie back to the overall mission of my podcast, right? So if your mission is helping entrepreneurs get organized like mine is, you don't just want to talk about your vacation. You want to talk about how you get organized in your business while you run, or excuse me, or while you're on vacation. You see how that all ties into the mission? Okay. So your action step for that would be define 3 to 4 topics or your pillars to whatever your podcast is going to be about. Before you record anything, run it through your mission filter, right? And if you cannot bridge the topic and tie it back to your mission in one sentence, then it doesn't belong on your business podcast. Because the thing that I talk about with my clients is how to tie your business to your podcast. So your podcast is not just a standalone, it's a part of an ecosystem, right? And so you have to make sure that you tie everything back to your overall mission or umbrella, okay? And that's how I would do that, okay? Is to create content pillars. All right? So that was question number 2. Question number 3 is, so actually it's 3 and 4. It's about this is really about the heavy hitters. So I'm going to group this question together. So because a lot of people struggle with this. So here was the question: how do I identify and refine my audience when my work spans into special education needs? So this person, SEN, special education needs, travel, education, and employment. Okay. And then another asks, is it better to focus on one core theme or build episodes around multiple areas of expertise? So that was a lot of words to, and for this, to answer this question, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. So the hard truth is this: if you try to talk to everyone, then you end up talking to no one. Okay. And so I get this all the time. People who just want to spread it out. They want to talk to everybody. Well, I'm talking about, productivity, but, I'm talking to a lot of people. Well, if you're talking to everybody, you're talking to no one. Okay. Because you can't. Right. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to throw away, your expertise. You just need to find the golden thread, what I'm calling the golden thread. So let me just kind of hone this and so to answer your question. So if you do SEN, which is special education needs, travel, and employment, then your audience is not everyone. Okay, your audience is likely an organization or families that's navigating maybe accessibility in public areas. You see the difference in that? Like, you have to hone in on that one audience. And so you are actually selling inclusion. Listen to me. You're not talking to everybody. You're talking about inclusion, okay, for special needs, special education needs, right? And so to answer the question about the theme, you will need one core theme for your podcast, but you can have multiple series or categories within that podcast. You see how that works? So here is the person that asked these questions. Here's your action step. Don't brand yourself around the topics of travel or jobs or SEN, special education needs. Brand yourself around the outcome or the person. So, in other words, a bad niche would be saying that I talk about travel and jobs for special needs. That's really not a good way to try to brand yourself or pick a niche, right? Because you need a good niche. So maybe the better niche might be, I help organizations create accessible environments for special Education Needs Community, or SEN Community. And then everything else will be like travel tips, employment laws. Support the main promise is all I'm trying to get you to understand. Okay? So hopefully that made sense. Make sure when you watch this, make sure you reach out to me if that made sense, or even comment wherever you're watching this particular episode. All right. All right. Then I got the next question. This is the final question. The final question was, is about paying the bills, right? So, what are practical and simple, not complicated, lead generation strategies for service-based businesses like consultancy or tourism? And I love this question because we love to overcomplicate things, right? And so I'm so glad that this creator asked this question, because a lot of times we think we need complicated funnels or complicated ads or tripwires, and we really don't. So the answer to this question is, especially if you are a service-based business or service-based entrepreneur, the simplest strategy, in my opinion, and the way I do it, is a call to action, or a CTA. Okay. Rather than overcomplicated with funnels, just have a simple call to action when you do your podcast. All right. You're already demonstrating your expertise by speaking. You don't need to convince them that you're smart, right? They're listening to you right now. If you already have your service-based business and you're launching to support, you're launching a podcast in support of your business, and this is your ecosystem, then definitely all you need to do is just have a simple call to action to your service-based business, whatever that is, right? Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 steps, and hopefully this helps. Create one clear next step. One clear next step in your episode. Okay. Not a newsletter, not a Facebook group, not even a download, a booking. So, did you hear me say that a few minutes ago, that if you are in need of some assistance with launching your podcast, then book a call with me, a discovery call. That's my call to action. A booking. Okay. One clear next step. It's not a complicated funnel. It's just a next step. So that's number 1. Number 2, mention it a couple of times in your episode. You heard me say that. If you're listening to this or you're watching this and you need help implementing this, then just book a complimentary call. And the link is in the show notes. This is my call to action, right? And again, and then number 3, use your show notes. Use your show notes, which is, if you've never launched a podcast, all it is the description in your podcast, and put the link there. And that's it. It's not complicated. So that's why I love this question. Now, I will say, for tourism or consultancy, your lead magnet shouldn't be a PDF. No one needs another PDF, right? It should be like a mini audit or a discovery call, just like I just shared with you mine. That's my call to action. Okay. And so your next steps for this is for your next, say, 5 episodes, remove all other call to actions. No follow me on Instagram, no sign up with the newsletter. Just one simple focus: book a call, and do that. And what happens is, eventually you will you will you will improve your conversion rate because you're actually talking to someone. So I hope that this helps. Let me just recap this really quick based on those questions that I received. Number one, treat your content like assets, not a diary. Okay, that was number one to answer that particular question. The answer to question number two was make sure that you filter every topic through your mission. Remember, we talked about the umbrella. Make sure that all of your topics go through that mission filter. Okay. And then number three, find the golden thread that ties your multiple passions. We all have multiple passions. I have multiple passions. I shared that with you. But find the golden thread that ties your multiple passions into one solution. Keep your solutions, your lead generation simple. One clear path to work with you. Okay? Now, if you find yourself just kind of nodding along to these answers, but you're still stuck and you want to know how to implement the things that I just shared with you in your business, then this is exactly what I do to help my clients, right? So I'd love to help you. I'd love to help you find your golden thread, all right? And if that is you and whatever you heard, if any of this resonates with you, then book a call with me. The link will be in the description. Okay? Now, just one last thing I want to share with you. Remember that clarity fuels movement and confusion creates friction. So write the vision and make it plain. That comes from the scripture Habakkuk 2:2. So until next time, get organized, get heard, and get leads. Have an amazing day. Bye bye.